Where did my thing go? I got this. I got this. Oh man. Oh man.
All right, EOTECH video in 3, 2, 1. Hey everybody, it's Eric and
Roy.
And thanks for checking out another HatchetCast episode. Today we're going to be talking about the EOTECH EXPS-3 and why it is the best night vision optic for passive aiming. But first, if you haven't done so already,
Statement.
very bold. We're trying to spice up the comment section a little bit. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button, and also comment down below your experiences, all your experiences with the EOTECH series. There's a lot of history behind this, a lot of time it's been out in the industry, so you can definitely comment what your experiences have been, pros, cons, good, bad, and ugly. Let's go ahead and disclaimer.
Okay, so as far as this disclaimer in here, none of these optics were obviously provided to us. Myself and Erica both owned EOTECHs for very long periods of time. My first EOTECH was probably around 2012, 2013, roughly. And shortly after that, I happened to pick up one of the models that we're talking about today, the EXPS-3.
Yeah.
So that's a mouthful.
Yeah, I used to have one on my M4 back in the day, in my old young military days, and then also after the EOTECH lawsuit thing, I actually did pick up an EOTECH because they were kind of giving like rebates and a lot of things they were doing to incentivize getting them their brand back up. So that's when I picked up the EXPS-3, and I've had it for years and thousands of rounds. Yeah,
so I took advantage of the EOTECH lawsuit when there was an issue. I honestly never experienced the thermal drift.
Thermal drift.
Thermal drift. If you want some information on it, there's a quick Google search. There's tons of websites out there. Military.com did a great article on it.
Yeah.
You can read up on it if you are unfamiliar with it, because we know we have a lot of newer shooters in the market now. But yeah, EOTECH was experiencing thermal drift, and basically from one extreme of a temperature to another extreme, they were getting a significant amount of drift in their zero, their point of aim, point of impact. I actually never experienced that, but I live in Florida, so we don't have...
Our coldest is air conditioning.
Right. So I don't have a ton of temperature changes.
Yeah. Which you'd be surprised, that breaks a lot of optics.
It does. Yeah. We've broke a few recently. AimPoint T2. But anyways, I took advantage of it, and I sent my EOTECH back instead of accepting the money. So they would cut you a check or refund it to you, basically, or exchange your optic. I exchanged my optic. I always definitely enjoyed my EOTECHs. Yeah. I've always been a big fan of them. Probably one of the biggest things that I don't like about them is the battery life. I wish that they could eventually do something about that. All the way up until today, the battery life is still not that good. I do believe that they advertise 1,000 hours of battery on
setting at 12 at room temperature.
Yeah, so room temperature. So what you would have your AC at inside your house. So for us here in Florida, that's probably sitting around that 70 to 72 degrees most of the time.
64 degrees.
64 degrees when I'm sleeping.
Yeah.
But yeah, talk about thermal drift, right?
Yeah.
So battery life is still not necessarily the greatest.
No, it's not that great. I mean, for some reason, mine has had good battery life. Like, I've replaced mine probably, once a year. Okay. But I also am pretty diligent about turning off the EOTECH whenever I'm not using it, so that will help conserve it.
I'm the guy that never turns the lights off when they leave the room.
Yeah.
So
it's depressing with the house off.
Yeah, so I forget to turn my EOTECHs off, so I replace batteries quite often.
Yeah. So. With the holographic optic, one of the big things is they talk about parallax free, and you actually had some really good information that you saw.
So everyone tends to lean towards one of the big selling points behind the EOTECH is like, oh, it's parallax free. You won't have any parallax, drift. There's no optic that's parallax free.
What is parallax?
Basically, whenever your reticle is not dead center in your glass.
Right.
So you can be experiencing a false zero even.
Right.
If I have my rifle set up and let's just say I'm slightly canted, I'm off axis. okay, and that reticle is not directly in the center of the gun, during my zeroing process, I'm always going to basically be experiencing parallax, okay, until I get back to that position, okay. So, and we'll see that quite often whenever guys are zeroing their rifles. They'll get out, they'll shoot a nice tight group, they'll take a break for a few minutes, and they'll jump back down, they'll go zero it again, and it shifted, you know, half an inch. You know, what the heck's going on?
Yeah.
Well, you know, it didn't necessarily shift internally. Wise goes, you had a false zero.
Right.
Okay. So it is very, very crucial on any of your optics, and very, very important to make sure that you have that optic nice and level and a very stable position when you are zeroing it, okay? Because the moment that we become off axis, to give an example inside of the EOTECH, okay, we have this nice, beautiful, large window.
Very large,
okay?
yeah.
From window to window, EOTECH basically says that they measure that at basically 14 MOA. Okay, 14 MOA at 100 yards is, do the math, calculate it.
Big.
14 inches.
14 inches, okay. That's what I said.
So from center to right side of the glass is obviously 7 inches, or 7 MOA. Center to the left side of the glass is 7 inches. Okay,
7 MOA.
7 MOA. 14 inches completely all the way across. So if I do jump off axis, so let's say I do get myself a nice solid zero, and maybe I'm working a VTAC barricade or some other type of barricade, shooting underneath the car or over the top of the roof of a car or trunk or whatever, and I have to slightly cant that rifle, and I'm off axis, and my head is still not directly lined up with it, and that the further that dot starts to approach the opposite side of that window, you are going to experience a parallax shift, okay? Yeah. So if I have that dot on the very, very far edge, and you can test the theory, cant your rifle over or get that dot all the way over to the far edge, one way or another, and put it on paper at 100 yards, you're probably gonna see, roughly, give or take, about a 5 to 7 inch shift based on where you're at, plus or minus there,
yeah.
Okay? Yeah, so it's definitely, there is no such thing as a zero parallax.
Yeah.
Now you do have a very minimal parallax shift in an EOTECH because the way the reticle is, you know, the true holographic, yeah, in comparison to other optics that are out there, even very high-end optics like an AimPoint T2. Okay, an AimPoint T2, you'll actually experience a little bit more parallax out of it than you will with an EOTECH. Okay, and you know, so on and so on from every manufacturer's all the way to the extreme. Like the Trijicon MRO, it used to experience a ton of parallax.
Yeah.
If you shifted with that dot just off a dead center at 100 yards, you were getting roughly that, you know, that 7 to 10 inches of shift, where I've seen guys running like the Trijicon MRO, and where their dot was like, you know, I was like, hey, where was your dot when you were breaking that shot? It's like, oh, it's on the far edge. They're literally missing the target by 3 to 4 feet.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So that's an extreme situation.
Yeah.
7 inches is not a lot.
No.
Especially when you're talking about, you know, most of the target sizes that we're shooting with these fighting rifles, they're body size targets, right? So 7 inches is not a lot. That's still, you know, you're still going to get good vital hits. So it is very minimal, but understand that it's not a zero parallax.
Yeah, and that's something that we kind of hear that a lot. So kind of dispelling that and making sure that you're doing your due diligence as a shooter. Yeah. To not go, oh, well, the equipment is parallax free, so I can zero how I want. No, still try to do the proper fundamentals and do things right, and it'll pay off in the long run.
Yeah, and it's one of the things we go over in our general purpose rifle class, because this happens to be an optic that we see a lot in our general purpose rifle class. And we run the EOTECHs. We've always have been, like I said, a large fan. You take a class with us, you're going to see myself or Eric, one of us, at least probably running the EOTECH in that class.
Yeah.
And we discuss that parallax, and when you're going through the zero process and making sure that you have that dot dead center in the glass, that you don't have it high, that you don't have it left or right or anything like that, that it is as centered as possible.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, definitely. And the EOTECH is really, really nice as far as a ruggedized combat optic. It's got tons of years combat experience, SOCOM issued, point proven type of optic. So why does this pick why is it our top choice for our favorite night vision optic as far as passive aiming?
So
can you talk about passive aiming?
Well, before we do that, the actual model itself, okay? So there are a few different models to choose from when it comes to night vision capability. For myself and also for Eric, and you have two different models. So you have the XPS-3 and you have the EXPS-3. The difference between the two is the EXPS-3 is going to have the QD disconnect system built into it. This one happens to be sitting on a Unity mount right here as a riser to help with that passive aiming, which we'll discuss here in a second. This one is not sitting on it. So the way that this is currently set up on the EXPS-3, you will be a lower 1/3 co-witness. So if you're the individual that wants to co-witness your sights, understand that the EXPS-3 is going to be a lower 1/3, meaning that my iron sights are going to be in the lower.
Now, is that the EXPS or the XPS?
That's the EXPS.
Okay.
Okay. The EXPS is going to be a lower 1/3 co-witness. Okay. So if you think about the height of your iron sights that you have on your rifle, whether they're flip downs or traditional fixed front post sight, when you mount that on there, if you want to get an idea of how high that may sit, look at your iron sights, and it's going to be in a lower 1/3 of the glass.
Right.
Okay. The very bottom part of the glass. You can barely almost make them out.
Right.
Okay. When that's set up properly. The XPS-3 is also night vision compatible, but it is going to be an absolute co-witness.
Absolutely.
I mean, it is going to sit the exact same height that your iron sights are.
Right.
So if you look directly through that glass, your iron sights would be sitting at that exact same height. Okay.
Right.
The controls to operate the EXPS-3, the controls are on the side. Okay. If you're looking at the muzzle end of the gun, like looking down the rifle like you should through your glass, those controls are going to be on the left side.
Yeah.
Okay. Your night vision control and your up and down for your brightness settings are going to be on that side. The XPS-3 is going to be on the back side.
Yeah.
That's really going to be a matter of opinion on as far as or necessarily maybe setup. If you're the guy that's running maybe like a magnifier behind it, you're probably going to want those controls on the side, right? So you're probably definitely going to be down for the EXPS-3
100%.
versus the X
Yeah.
series, okay? Definitely easier. I could go either way.
Yeah.
Most of the time, if we're talking about running these in a night vision setup, I'm not running my magnifier at all. I just ditch it. It's on a QD system and it's gone.
Yeah.
Okay? One of the biggest reasons why we originally were leaning always towards the EXPS-3, for myself, and you would probably agree, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Is the mounting systems that were out there to raise it up for passive aiming height still were not quite high enough if I ran the XPS.
Correct.
Okay, so the lower 1/3, along with like a Unity mount or an American Defense mount or
overbore systems.
Or overbore systems. Any of those companies, great companies that build a lot of fantastic mounts that are out there that help with that passive aiming, this allowed it to get just a little bit higher.
Yeah.
Okay, allowed to get that center of bore closer to that 2 inches or actually slightly over 2 inches.
Yeah.
Okay. So we definitely prefer the EXPS, but now we have companies like Unity offering those same risers for the XPS.
Yeah.
Okay, so those are the difference between the two. Now,
Yeah.
passive aiming.
Yeah. As far as passive aiming, the biggest thing is before in the past when you had those co-witness sights, whenever you would try to get behind it, what passive aiming is instead of using my IR laser or my IR lasing module, I would actually use the optic. I would just look through the optic and aim like I would during the day. So what the EOTECH provided, specifically the EXPS series, is it allowed me to have more of a heads-up display and not have to crunch my head behind the optic, bumping my tube on the gun and stuff like that. Like, it just made it a lot easier. When guys were running those lower sights, especially back in the day when I was trying to passive aim back in the day, with those lower co-witness sights, I was really struggling and fighting the equipment. The higher those optics, even when we do top-mounted dots on our LPVOs, you have it's even easier. Yeah, you have a very easy heads-up display where you can almost naturally bring the rifle up and the reticle just appears. But when it's specifically with the EXPS 2 and the XPS 2, they don't have a night vision setting. And for a long time, I thought, oh, well, it's not that big of a deal, you know.
I ran it that way for a long time.
Correct. Yeah.
And I know many guys that actually still do.
Yeah.
And I had EXPS 3s. Okay. And at that particular point in time, I was actually just primarily running one rifle, and it already had my XPS on it.
Correct.
Okay. My 2 series. All right. The 2 series not having night vision compatible, and there is enough adjustment in the brightness settings that you can definitely, by all means, do what you need to do to shoot passive.
Yeah.
Okay. Then Eric was like, dude, you have to do the 3 series. You have to put your EXPS 3 on your night gun. Like, that's what it's built for. Put it on there. I know it's stupid. I didn't have it on there. Whatever. It ended up somehow or another bouncing optics around. Long story short, it ended up on a gun that would never shoot in the dark.
Yeah,
Okay, it
yeah.
ended up like on a 8-inch freaking 7.62 by 39 Galil. It's gonna shoot flames out the end of the gun 3 miles long. So,
Flashbang.
you know, stupid decision. Yes,
Yeah.
roast me for it. That's cool.
Comments below.
Comment below. Okay, I understand. Stupid decision. So he's like, switch that stuff over, and I'm like, I don't want to re-zero it, get it done, and then it was like, oh.
I can see.
I can see you have 10. So, okay, so you have daytime settings, you have 20 daytime settings.
Yeah.
And then you have an additional 10 nighttime settings in it.
Which most optics only give you 2, night vision 1 or night vision 2.
Yep.
So the fact that a lot of people got a misconception, myself included, is, oh, I can dim this down in the daytime settings all the way because I can't see it during the day. It's so low.
Yep.
But what was happening is at night, I would dim it down to the lowest setting with an EXPS-2, and it was still too bright of a reticle where it kind of like star clustered out my optic in my night vision.
Especially with I mean, obviously ambient light is not something we can control.
Correct.
Okay, it's a variable that's uncontrollable. So yeah, so certain situations, you know, it would be fine.
Yeah. When it was a lot of light, it was fine.
It was fine. But the moment that we get a little bit of cloud cover,
yeah,
it's like a complete change altogether.
I couldn't even.
Or if you're working through a room or a very dark hallway or something like that, becomes a totally different animal.
Yeah.
Okay? Versus getting over to something like this with those 10 additional settings, you're unlimited in that ability to, regardless of what your situation may be in that ambient light. It could be super, you know, super bright out or very, very dark. I have all of these adjustments and I can really fine tune it. I can fine tune it so much that you can make hits at significant distances.
Yeah.
You know, shooting passive.
Yeah, and the cool thing is the button is so easy.
Yep.
I can immediately push it. It automatically goes to night vision mode, and then I can adjust it. So I was able to, if I went into the woods and it was darker, I could dim it down. If I went out to ambient light, I would turn it up. And so it was enough to where I could really refine my reticle, how bright or dim it was, based on my setting at night, which is honestly, with most optics, you can't do that.
Yep. The buttons, regardless of which model you choose to go with in the night vision models, the 3 series, the buttons are actually both fantastic.
Fantastic.
On the back side, you can easily reach around with your thumb and work through it like a D-pad or something like that, you know, like you would have on a remote for video games or PlayStation or whatever. On the side over here, you can do the exact same thing. I would come over top and just, you know, I reach over top like this, and I can immediately feel.
Correct.
Not having that depth perception behind nods. Not needing to take the time or even worth to take the time to adjust. On the fly, I can just feel everything. Okay. So both models are great. We are still primarily rocking the EXPS series, like on you know, Bobro and American Defense and Unity, and then overbore system mounts. But like I said, you do have mounts out there now that allow the absolute Cowitness sights to get, you know, to that 2-inch height or slightly above it, the 204, 2.4. So you can definitely get it up there. Higher is better, I'm going to be honest with you. So
the other cool thing about this is the glass on the window, or excuse me, the window size is very generous. So I have a lot of play, especially at night when you don't have any references because you can't see. You're doing a lot of feel, a lot of peripheral vision. So like having a huge window is really, really nice and helps me, you know, be able to pick up that dot really easy.
You really don't see behind your nods, and you guys comment below if you experience this exact same thing. I don't see a lot of shadowing of the box. Okay, it's like, okay, I have this big thing in front of my face. You think I'm going to see all this shadow? No,
you just see a reticle.
You just see a reticle is what you see. And honestly, the style of reticle that EOTECH has with that 65 MOA big donut of death, you know, and then the 1 MOA in the center, it's even easier to pick up.
100%.
Okay, versus something like I do use an AimPoint T2 which has night vision settings, which has multiple night vision settings in it, and I run that as a top dot quite often. But sometimes it takes me a moment, a little bit longer to find a dot. Okay, because I'm behind my nods. I'm like, you know, trying to readjust myself based on the situation, and it takes me a little bit longer to get on that dot versus with this, because I do have that 65 MOA donut of death sitting in there. I can still pick it up quicker. I like all I see is the edge of it, where maybe my head is not necessarily, I'm slightly off axis from from my optic, I can still see the edge of that versus my dot being all the way over in the far right-hand corner where I can't see it. I still have a reference point. It's kind of like the primary arms dot that they came out with for shooters on top of pistols to kind of help aid what I think they call
zero them in.
Yeah, zero them in. It's like their ACSS
from
system
Holosun,
from Holosun or whatever that they added in there. It has the big donut in it that allows you to kind of, you see this edge, you know that you need to direct over further to the right or to the left. I can do that with the EOTECH. So that's why, one of the biggest reasons why I lean that direction.
The other thing that I also found out, and this is something running through Holosun dots or other different types of dots, trying to run them passively, is another big thing that is going to play a huge role in this is the shade of glass. So like if you have a darker shade of glass, whenever, especially for the PVS-14, you're rocking only a single tube, you bring that up and all of a sudden everything's darker. With the EOTECH, you have no shade of darkness at all. It is a clear, it doesn't affect the shade inside your tube, so that way when you bring it up, it's not like you're putting sunglasses over top of your night vision.
That is a fantastic point because we tend to experiment around with a lot of lesser, a little more affordable, let's say. I don't want to say cheap, but you know, when you got a lot of rifles to outfit, and you know, and we just want to experiment around with some of these things to see if they can get the job done. Some of those optics have a lot of tint on the glass, especially some of the Holosuns that are out there, even including the like the AimPoint. Some of the AimPoints have a decent amount of tint on the glass versus the EOTECH. It's like, you know, it is truly clear glass, so it's not like putting a pair of sunglasses on.
One of the things is, you guys, just a quick plug, shameless plug, is you can't figure this out unless you take training. So make sure you come out and train with us. We have our Ghost Fighter Night Vision Alpha and Bravo courses. The Alpha courses, you're gonna walk a lot. You're going to learn how to live life under night vision and also some shooting. The Bravo is more shooting focused, but we want you guys to be able to be very proficient with your night vision. And even with a PVS-14, you can get really far. We have rentals, so if you don't have night vision, you're thinking about getting into it, you can rent from us. We're sponsored by Advanced Night Vision, so that way you guys can rent and train and see how powerful this capability can be before you buy.
We have entire rental packages. So you could theoretically come to our class with nothing but ammunition, and we'll provide you your ammunition and your way of storing that ammunition, obviously. So you need, you know, come with some mags obviously, and come with some way of carrying them, whether that's in your pocket or on a belt or on a chest rig or whatever it may be. But we have entire packages where we can offer you, and we run in our classes for rental rifles that are completely set up, suppressed rifles, where they have EXPS-3s or XPS-3s on them, okay? So if you're worried about taking a night vision class from this because, oh man, I don't really have a night vision compatible optic, I really don't know what to buy yet, well, you know what? You know, just do our entire package. Take the class, rent the nods, rent the rifle. You know, you got a suppressed rifle, you got night vision compatible optics, the whole package all together, one-stop shop.
A cool thing also, for the last thing on that, is if you do decide to buy night vision through us with Advanced Night Vision, we do take the rental price off of your night vision if you have taken a class with us. So come out and train with us. That's the best way to be able to figure out what works and what doesn't. So make sure you go out and take training. It does help you figure out what you need, what you don't need, and also what works for you. Something that is really good about the EXPS series and even the XPS series is the fact that it uses a 123 battery. A lot of the night vision goggles these days, specifically RNVGs and ARNVGs now, they use 123 batteries, or your lasers usually use 123 batteries. So the fact that all the batteries are compatible, I carry spare batteries, so that way if I run out of my, you know, for whatever reason, worst case scenario, something goes down, I have spare batteries that work on all my devices for night.
It is definitely very nice to basically just have, you know, an entire Pelican case full of batteries with all the optics and all the lasers and all the night vision units, basically to pretty much run the exact same thing. Now, obviously, PVS-14s are taking AA's. But if you're starting to jump into dual tubes like ARNVGs or RNVGs or something like that, you're running that CR123. So it is definitely very nice to know that you can have extra batteries with you, and it doesn't matter what you're reaching for or grabbing in that scenario. If you're trying to stay completely dark, and you got your nods on, and hey, I got to replace this battery, or I got to replace my illuminator battery, or whatever it may be, I can do so.
So I think one of the big things I want to kind of finish this video off is why passive shooting. And I think that's a big argument we get, well, why passive versus just using an IR laser? My answer is yes to both. You should be able to use both techniques because they have different types of situations that apply, different things. You never take away from your toolbox because you think, oh, I'm never going to need this hammer. You never know if you got to put it in a nail. So learning passive shooting and getting really good at that makes you have no signature as far as being an IR signature or anything like that, but also being good with the IR devices that you have and knowing how to work them. Those are some things. Is we hear those arguments a lot. Well, I only do passive because that makes sense, or I only do IR because that, that's more realistic. It's like, no. Practice all of those skills so that way you are well-rounded and you're not taking tools out of your toolbox and trying to justify why you don't need that.
So I had this conversation just the other day with a good friend and a customer, and we were just kind of talking about it. It's like I really don't even feel like I need the laser that much because I'm every time we go out and shoot and every time we run in drills and stuff like that, I'm so effective passively aiming.
Yeah.
He's obviously worked on it quite often and becoming very, very confident and comfortable with it. And I'm like, dude, why would you still get rid of a tool?
Yeah, why get rid of it?
Why get rid of the tool? I mean, especially, a lot of these lasers are becoming smaller and smaller, taking up less room on your gun. And there's a lot of great lasers that are out there that aren't breaking the bank anymore. Mm-hmm. We've had some phenomenal luck out of some very affordable brands.
Yeah.
So it's not there's no reason to get rid of it.
Yeah. And there are lasers that are smaller. We do have one that we are going to review here soon. Yep. Hopefully we'll get it here soon, but it is a great way to almost have mall capability for a quarter of the price.
Yes.
Correct. So, any final words on the EOTECH?
No, outside of pricing, that's the only thing that we kind of left out here. EOTECH is obviously not a cheap brand.
No.
They are expensive. They are made in the USA. Mm-hmm. So, woohoo! Yay! But they are made in the USA, which is great, which is awesome. But you're looking at on an EXPS series with the QD mount system built into it, the 3 series like we're talking about today, $750.
Yeah.
Okay. Are there deals out there sometimes? Yes.
Yeah.
I can tell you around what would you have? 4th of July. What was before 4th of July holiday? Memorial Day?
My anniversary?
Yeah, your anniversary. Okay. All right, so for Eric's anniversary, actually, Palmetto State was running to sell. No, Memorial Day, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Memorial Day. Palmetto State had the EXPS-3 series with the multi-dot reticle in it.
Wow.
So it was like a -3 or -4. One of the models, obviously, that have a lot of dots going on in it. But if you're cool with that and you're down with that, I think they had that for like $500.
Wow.
So you do find deals on them. Generally speaking, you're probably going to be in that $700 to $750 price range, regardless of which one you buy, whatever color it may be.
Yeah.
Whether it's the peanut butter, desert tan, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. I mean, it is going to last you a long time. And also,
how old is that one?
This one I've had, I think, when it first came out.
Yep.
So I've had it since right after the whole 2016 thing. I think it was like 2017 I had this, and it's got thousands and thousands of rounds on it and been put on multiple guns. It literally looked like it came out of a garbage can. It's been beaten up.
It's been spray painted 900 times.
900 times. Yeah, but I mean, a cool thing is you can actually, if you're looking to pick one up, there's tons of affiliates that we have that work with us. Yes. So Big Tex Ordnance, Shooting Surplus, and also Optics Planet. There's discount codes there. You can get this through them, save some money. It also does help out the channel a lot, kind of like supporting us by training with us. That is another good way to support us, but also a great way for you to save money on a quality optic. But yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if you want to go see some more behind the scenes stuff or anything that we're doing as far as updates about classes, whatnot, go check out our Instagram. I've been forgetting to say this. Go check out our Twitter. We are on Twitter, and we're putting all kinds of cool nuggets of knowledge on there, and it's becoming a more and more awesome platform. It's super free. That's what's great about it. And so we are blue check verified on Twitter now.
There we go.
Go check out Rumble. Go check out Spotify. We have the HatchetCast podcast. And also, go check out the website to see training dates and also maybe the next competition that comes up.
Yeah,
so
we actually have a division right here, red dot magnifier,
you can use
prism scope, our battle rifle division. So sign up for it.
All right, guys.
Join us. We'd love to see you.
Exactly. Make sure you go ahead and train to be the asset, not the liability, and we will see you on the